I think recruitment is actually the greatest example of industries that are taking inspiration from their industry.
Ksenia, welcome to Talent Matters, our podcast extraordinaire.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. You said this is the first podcast that you've
It is
done, so
equally exciting and terrifying.
Terrifying not, that's their job. They can edit it all out and make it all
Edit the
good.
terrifying part.
So we can just we can chat and we can talk our way through this. No problem at all.
But I'm looking forward to that.
I'm glad that we're the first podcast, first of many, I'm sure. But we're going to set the bar somewhere high.
Yeah.
We're going to try and set it high. No, so thank you very much for coming.
No, thank you for having me.
Do you want to kind of just do a little who you are, what you're doing? We'll kind of go on a little bit of a historical journey, but
sure.
Do you want to introduce? I hate it when people say introduce yourself because I always instantly, when someone says that to me, I instantly panic and go, what the hell am I going to say?
It's strange, isn't it? It's like as if you're doing you're pitching yourself.
Yes, so don't pitch yourself. Let's just start with the basics. Who are you? What are you doing now?
Okay, so I'll give you
Still
a slightly
terrifying, isn't it?
I'll give you a slightly longer version of that.
Go on.
So I'm Ksenia. I run my consultancy called ThinkSoo, specializing in commercial operations and brand building alongside other things. But the way I've got there.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
So I'm originally from Lithuania. I've been in UK for 11 years now, and originally came here for German-speaking jobs. I didn't speak any English when I arrived to UK. But my background, so I studied in Germany, and my background was PR, marketing, and media management.
Yeah.
So I randomly started for a customer care role. Wanted to move into marketing again. Apparently in UK no one cares if you have a degree in a different country. So that was fun.
That could be a whole podcast in itself.
I know, right? But I finally managed to get into marketing. I am an absolute marketing nerd, I've got to say. It's very sad. I turned my hobby into a job, best thing that can happen, they say.
Absolutely.
And so been doing marketing for gazillion years, and then started to lead teams and realized that
And what company is this? Where are you? What?
So I started at a company called Life Plus. So they are a nutritional supplements company.
Yeah.
And then moved on to SaaS businesses. So the first one was Kinetic, and I have learned a lot there and grown a lot. So I started there as a marketing exec, and I left as head of marketing for 2 companies. So we at that point already acquiring other companies.
Yeah.
And then moved into recruitment sector. And alongside all of these businesses, I was kind of getting inquiries, helping other companies with mostly marketing at that point.
So how did you get into why recruitment? I mean, it's always something on that we always like. Almost everyone I talk to, no one ever really seems to choose recruitment, and there's a bit of a running joke that people sort of fall into it a little bit. But but most, again, other people that have been on have usually been a consultant, and then they've either grown and moved into other roles or whatever. But sounds like your journey has been kind of through marketing. So why did you end up working in a recruitment firm?
I didn't end up working in recruitment by choice. It was the company that attracted me. So I was working for Austin Fraser, and it was really funny actually. I remember going, as I was still working for my previous employer, I was sitting on a paddleboard, and I thought, you know what, I just want more flexibility in my life, in my career, etc. And I must have manifested it because about 2 weeks after that thought, I've been headhunted by Austin Fraser, and I know that they've been looking for a head of marketing for a while. and that's also a different, it could be a different podcast topic, but we just had an interview, and it was the company that I have chosen, not necessarily the recruitment sector. But I would say, genuinely speaking, every company seems to think that they're different, that they're unique. And I would say in recruitment sector, everyone seemed to think that is a completely different beast. But genuinely speaking, I think company is a company, it's still a business. It still runs to, basic business administration principles, and we're still people buying from people. So actually your, genuine things around how do you purchase something apply no matter whether you are selling a software or you're selling candidates to companies. Yes, recruitment is a slightly different setup in terms of you having your, B2B and B2C, but it's genuinely still the same principle.
Everything is the same, right? You've got to sell something to make enough money to pay for the things that you're buying in or whatever you've got. We're going to get stuck into USPs and things, aren't we?
Yes. But so started to do this on the side, and then when I finished at Austin Fraser, I thought it's about time to kind of explore something that I wanted to do for years, and I finally had the courage to do that as well. And started working with different companies. I now have clients in recruitment, in construction, and IT, in retail. So there's a whole wide range of businesses.
That's cool. So that gives you not just you don't end up becoming siloed in what recruitment is doing. You can take other strategies, and we were talking about processes earlier, from those businesses and apply them to others.
It's exactly that, and you never stop learning because of that. Because me kind of backpedaling on this, but every business runs on the same principles, but every business is still unique. So you end up learning from different situations, different strategies, different sectors, and the things that you can learn in, say, SaaS, you can easily apply in recruitment. And what you learn in recruitment, you can apply in retail in different ways. And you kind of find a different level of creativity almost in that. But also it's quite rewarding to be able to do that in different sectors and help, people. Because, as you know yourself, businesses are like leaders' babies in a different way.
Leaders' babies. So do you think that there's not, that's really interesting, do you think there's not enough influence in the recruitment industry from other industries?
Hitting the pain point. Oh, definitely, 100%. I think recruitment is actually the greatest example of industries that are taking inspiration from their industry. And this is something I've been talking a lot with other recruitment leaders as well, is but a company X is doing this. It's like, my favorite example is like, imagine you want to buy a new front door, and you walk out and you have 5 neighbors, and you go, oh, okay, so they have yellow door, they have black, they have white, and they look approximately that way. Cool. So I'm gonna choose one of the 5 doors.
I see.
I might paint it ever so slightly. I might not go for bright yellow or white. I'm gonna go for buttermilk. But genuinely, you kind of go, okay, where you could go on Pinterest. You can look at what doors do they have in New York. Just expand your horizon. And that is unfortunately something that a lot of recruitment leaders don't like to do. I'm not saying a lot, not saying everyone, but a lot. So I don't want to generalize completely here. But there's something, when we're talking about, well, what does make your business unique? Well, we do X. Okay, but how is that different from your competitors? Oh, or, but this is the way the process has always been done. okay, well, how about we don't take inspiration from how the process has been done in recruitment for the last 20 years? How about we take inspiration from how this process has been done in, say, SaaS for the last 2 years? You know, that industries develop at a different speed. And I would say recruitment is one of the industry that is very interesting industry, because although it is developing and is so like people focused and so driven and based on this like entrepreneurial spirit, and yet is so behind in a lot of kind of outlooks.
Do you think they're, I mean, so I've asked this question. We've done podcasts with business leaders, and they've grown really successful businesses, and I kind of asked this question before, and they nearly always come back to talking about the people. It's the people that makes the difference in that particular business. And of course, that's, you don't have the same set of people in any one company, but that's what they'll say. They'll say it's the people that makes the difference.
Like, what makes a good CEO like is about people, is how you manage your people, the culture that you're building, etc. So in principle, that it's not a wrong thing that people is the most important thing. And obviously in recruitment, a recruitment agency is as good as their candidates, technically. But what if you lose your people, or what if,
which you do invariably, people within a business always move on eventually.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the problems. So I think what happens in recruitment a lot is that we focus on building just business, but not building a brand.
Yeah.
And a brand is so much more than just people working for a company.
See, some people will watch this and they'll be like, I don't want to do that. I'm not building a brand. I need to make sure that I'm placing enough people into this company, that company, that I've got enough jobs on, enough candidates, get the placement fees in. Building a brand, yeah, I know I sort of should do it, but they don't see it as a revenue generating element. Like, how do you convince people that they've got that the wrong way round?
Before I try to convince anyone, can I just highlight something? Is actually quite interesting. And recruitment, right? The majority of recruitment leaders, as you said, they've been consultants themselves. And is this sales mentality? And so one of the things that I specialize in is sales and marketing alignment.
Yeah.
Because by default, sales and marketing people think differently.
Yeah.
And with the sales mentality is more short-term perspective, and the marketing mentality is more long-term perspective. And the winning is somewhere in between, is the balance of both. So as much as what you're saying is technically not wrong, right? You still need to, hand for your candidates, hand for your clients, do all the placements, etc. And it's great if your business is doing well and you're just, in that hamster wheel, just doing the same thing. Building brand is about not just long-term success, but the growth as well. And it's about adding that extra value. It's about the experience that you want to give to your customers. Technically, brand is a promise that you give, and then customer experience is the proof that you can deliver on those promises.
Yeah.
But in a saturated market like recruitment, for example, it's actually never been more important than to build a brand and to give that amazing customer experience to both clients and candidates. Because you can lose to your competitors so quickly. And if you don't know exactly what differentiates you from them, you can only say that many times, we're just the best.
Yeah.
And this is a conversation we had with so many recruitment leaders where I was like, okay, so what makes you different? Why should I go to you, or rather than to, company X, who technically also, I don't know, doing tech recruitment, and they also claim to have good candidates. Why should I go to you? And that is a conversation, there's a lot of effort that goes into building relationships. Doing what the salespeople do, the whole face-to-face interaction, is a lot of effort.
Yeah.
It's a lot of manpower, it's a lot of energy, it's a lot of money, more importantly. The brand is what supports all of that and can actually decrease the cost per lead long term. So more you build the brand, more cost effective your operations become as well.
Yeah.
So I think that is, in terms of return investment, long term, brand building is necessary, but also it has to do with the crowded market, especially.
So how do recruitment businesses differentiate themselves? Because as you've said, it's a saturated market. You've got a lot of recruitment businesses that are kind of in that, under 10 people, something like that. And like you said, they will specialize in certain areas, but then they're not the only one that will specialize in, that specific industry. But they're quite a small business. They run on a relatively small budget. What sort of things? I mean, talk about websites because we build websites, but what sort of things should they be doing to try and differentiate themselves from the company that's just down the road from them? And your people have gone and worked for the one down the road, and the ones down the road have come and worked for you. So there's a real kind of exchange of people there. But how would you differentiate? How do you even start to differentiate yourself to someone else?
It's a good
without
question.
giving away all of your secrets, because this is all available for purchase. How would you start that?
Well, to begin with, I think one of the challenges is that a lot of leaders actually think the opposite. They do think that the business is unique, or the business is just better than others.
Yeah.
And
so
I think
break them down. Do you get them into they start here and you break them down to here? They're crying on the floor.
Not my job.
No.
No, we always leave friends. No, I think it's about the value. It's like the proof is in the pudding, right? So if you say you are better because X, okay, well, do your customers think that? I think that would be the first point, to ask your customers. And I think genuinely companies don't do that enough. Partly because scared, partly because it's just not part of a process and you're kind of in that hamster wheel, just playing along. But this is the most powerful thing that you could do, the whole thing around customer centricity, and really understanding what your customers need and how your customers see you, and what is the value that you bring to them. I would say is the starting point for sure. And then you need to match your kind of internal operations and culture to what you're saying externally, so your positioning, your messaging is aligned with that. But in terms of how do we define what is unique about us, is about storytelling, is about what's the value, what's the message that you want to give to people, what kind of problems do you resolve. It's kind of about digging deep and hitting the hearts and minds of your target audience. But I think one of the things as well is also understanding your truly understanding your target audience. And you'll be surprised how many companies actually never have even defined what the target audience is like, or what makes them tick, where do you find them, what kind of messaging do they prefer, even like what the kind of the tone of voice that they prefer. Those are details that all build a part of your positioning and messaging.
And that's some of the marketing side of things, right? And I suppose if you think a lot of recruitment businesses, probably sales, they're sales heavy, aren't they?
Probably, and they're lucky if they have one marketing person in the team.
Yes, full of salespeople and maybe a small marketing. So it's always that way. And although, like understanding the target audience and, taking feedback from your customers and all of that sort of stuff, the sales mentality is just go and get the next deal.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about that. Go and get the next
Mm-hmm.
deal. Go and find the next client that we're going to work on. And it can then be left behind until maybe it's sort of too late.
It's exactly that, when I said about the short-term and the long-term thinking,
Yeah.
and the balance is what you need to find in that.
Yeah.
And it's a usual friction between sales and marketing, and the recruitment sector, as you said, is very sales heavy. And having leaders who understand and appreciate the value of that balance, that's where the winning companies find
Yes.
themselves.
Yeah.
It's not because, again, like more you put into just the sales effort without your sales enablement, without marketing, it is so cost inefficient. People are the most expensive asset of every company.
Yeah.
And you are just reinventing the wheel all the time as a salesperson.
Yeah.
Where actually, if you put enough into sales enablement, marketing, and create an engine
Yeah.
that works together, this is where the magic starts to happen.
I think that's absolutely spot on, and I think the challenge is, I suppose, convincing people to get off the hamster wheel of
Mm-hmm.
chasing the next client, filling the next role, sending the invoice, and then starting again. From a sales perspective, that's what you would typically do. But if you can try and get off that hamster wheel for a minute and just build the engine around that, but that takes a bit of patience as well, doesn't it? Because if you're a sales-minded leader, then that's hard for you to see a period of time where that brand is growing,
Mm-hmm.
but not necessarily yielding you a result that month or that quarter.
If I'm honest, I think those things kind of need to be done in parallel.
Yeah.
And the best marketing people don't just live in the marketing world. They live in the commercial world and understand how they fit into the sales funnel, into customer experience. They understand how they fit into that commercial engine, and realize that actually I am sending this email, or I am, writing this LinkedIn post, not for the sake of, putting another beautiful graphic out there, is because this contributes to X goal, and that X goal contributes to, I don't know, our BHAG, our big hairy goal. And this is, you kind of understand the path as to why you're doing something.
Yeah.
And once you know that, then actually that balance again becomes easy, and that conversation between sales and marketing becomes easier, because if you move in the same direction as a team, then actually there's less friction, because we're playing for the same team.
You're focusing on the same goal.
Yeah.
Just the speed in which you're getting to that might be different, but it's still the same goal.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been talking for a bit, and we haven't talked about AI. So let's tackle that beast. I think there's a lot of disappointment in some areas with AI. That it was going to fix a lot of things and do a lot of stuff. And I think there was that report I saw earlier in the week. I think it was MIT or someone that done it. 95% of all AI projects have yielded like zero return or failed. So that's interesting. But the potential and capability of it is huge, and the impact is huge. And used in the right way, that 5% could make a huge difference in terms of business processes. But where are you at with it? What have you done with it? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? You know, what's your take on it?
Massive topic, isn't it?
It's a huge topic. How are you going to do it? You know?
There is definitely goodness and badness in AI, and what I mean in badness is that I think a lot of people at the moment think of, AI going to either resolve everything or going to kill everything. So there's a bit of this almost dramatic mentality about it.
Yeah.
But
Very black and white.
Very black and white, yeah. And you will see businesses where AI is completely out of the question. I have clients who they don't use AI out of principle. They don't want the information to be shared. Where others like completely going, we're going completely AI based and all that. I think if, as you said, if AI is applied in the right way and it's thought through, then it can do a lot of goodness. It can speed up things massively. Like if we talk about sales and marketing, I mean, bloody hell, you can do so much more with AI. Like your efficiency can go through the roof.
Yeah.
The problems start there when you don't have those processes defined, but you're trying to apply a layer of AI to it. So all you're doing is you kind of just magnifying the issues that you already had.
Yeah.
Like, coming back to the whole target audience, like if you never defined what your target audience truly need, what kind of messaging, like what's the pain points, yada yada, it doesn't matter how many AI tools you use for content creation, your message will never land.
Yeah.
Because you haven't done that fundamental part of a process beforehand.
Yeah.
Same, with sales. It doesn't matter like how many tools you use for outreach if you genuinely don't know who you're reaching out to or what is happening with those leads afterwards. Same with marketing. If you don't have those processes, you can maybe get more through the door, but if you don't give a good experience afterwards, you're essentially just failing on your promise.
Yeah.
And it's about including AI cleverly into those processes. Like, how can you make a buyer journey more AI driven, more efficient, quicker? How can you speed up sales cycles with introduction of AI? That is where, again, the magic happens.
Yeah.
I'm working on a sales and marketing AI framework at the moment, so I have about 100 tools on my list to review, and I've been having fun with those actually. But it highlights like what AI is capable of. But I think majority of businesses are behind on those fundamentals, and this is kind of, I suppose, my sweet spot in terms of where my focus and my work actually happens. Because, if a company was growing for a long time and then hit a block, or they're scale up and they're hungry for quick growth, a majority of them will have never defined those fundamentals. So if you're just trying to put AI as a layer to expedite the growth, all that happens is that at some point things gonna break. It's like building a house without a foundation.
Yeah.
It's just going to, the wall's gonna crack at some point.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of my take. I think there's a lot of goodness in it, but we also need to be careful in how we apply those things. And I think in recruitment as well, a lot of sort of SME sized recruitment companies, because a lot of them don't have those processes defined, what ends up happening is that they're building, it's like, oh, well, I'm going to put it here and here and here and here and here and here and here. But that happens by different consultants. And you're just going, so what kind of tech stack do we have here? And there's this mishmash of everything not talking to each other, and they end up wasting money. And, so there's, that's, I suppose, where RevOps really comes in, to making sure that that engine is well defined.
Yeah, So talk to me about RevOps. I mean, this is a relatively new kind of term to me. So what is RevOps?
Okay, the way I would define it, I think it is the engine behind the commercial growth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's making sure that sales and marketing are aligned, that they have tools throughout the buyer journey mapped out, and that they are delivering on the experience that they have promised. And the job of RevOps is making sure that the engine, that commercial engine, is working well, whether that is finding the right tools, making sure that the data is correct, making sure that we have everything that we need from a sales enablement perspective. That's how I personally see the value of RevOps.
Yeah.
Is that massive supporting element behind sales and marketing.
Right. So it's not just a consultant with their email address and phone.
Well, there's just a consultant with email address and phone.
So with going back to AI, do you see some of the badness in terms of when people are just implementing it kind of on the fly? Do you also see it as that sometimes the motivation for using it is maybe wrong in terms of I want to make things cheaper and fast, like cheaper and faster, or is the motivation wrong to using it?
Good question. I wouldn't say that motivation to be more efficient or effective is wrong. I think every business are trying to find ways to be more efficient and effective. I think what a lot of businesses still failing to do is be customer centric, and a lot of businesses think inwards rather than outwards.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is, how do we do things? What do we sell? What makes us profitable? Rather than going, okay, what are the challenges that we resolve? What kind of value do we deliver? What kind of legacy do we want to leave behind as a brand?
Mm-hmm.
How do we want to be seen in this world? Once you start thinking that way, the selling starts to become easier.
Yeah.
Because technically you're not selling anymore, you're resolving issues.
Yeah.
But also that AI element, the output of its usage is becoming more focused on the experience that you deliver into your customers, on the brand that you're building, and then the efficiency and effectiveness is almost like a side product of that, a beautiful side product.
Yeah.
But companies have a massive opportunity to save money, to deliver faster results, to be more agile through AI. But underneath all of that, you need to have those definitions in place around why do we actually do what we do? Like, why are we getting out of bed?
Yeah.
I think that is the balance.
Why we even got this in the first place?
Yeah.
Do you think one of the big topics around this is that it's kind of taking people's jobs? So where are you at with that?
I was actually listening to a podcast this morning on the way here about 99% of people basically being jobless in about 10 years' time.
Oh, that's something to look forward to.
Right? I was like, oh, this is a bit of positivity for Thursday morning. Where I am with that? It will happen. More and more AI progresses in its development, more and more it will replace people. I think the next 5 to 10 years, actually 10 years is a bit long, I would say the next 5 years will be crucial in terms of how we as human beings adapt to the new reality. I don't think it's AI necessarily that will replace people. It will be people who use AI cleverly that will replace people. There's still a lot of value in, people doing jobs. I mean, technically you could say, well, Ksenia, but your job will be redundant in 10 years. It possibly would be. I mean, you can probably ask ChatGPT right now, give a good prompt and just say, give me scenarios that I need to apply here, or, give me an advice on how you do X, Y, and Z. There's a people element in it, though, that at this point at least, AI can't replace. How that will develop is difficult to predict. I think there might be more regulations in the future around how AI is used, and obviously there's super intelligence that kind of is a threat to humanity altogether.
Yeah.
To be that extra dramatic here. So I do think that we have a very small window of opportunity to get on that AI train, especially in sales and marketing. Everything becomes quicker, customer expectations becoming higher. How do you deliver on all of that with the resources that you had 5-10 years ago? You can't, because the world has changed. Expectations are changing, and so you need to adapt as a salesperson, as a marketeer, as a RevOps specialist, as a leader of a company. I think you genuinely need to be agile, and AI can enable that. But it will definitely change some strategies, I think, globally.
I think you're right in terms of people. You'll have to adopt the latest technologies that are available to you, because if you don't, then someone else will, and then ultimately that job could go. And there's examples of evolution throughout time. And I was thinking just the other day, if you take like a typographer, before computers came along, and before sort of you had Adobe and things like that, those typographers are now, if they didn't end up using a computer and using the software packages there, then they're probably out of business now. Same with when I started working 100 years ago, it was all about print advertising. Jobs went into newspapers and print, and that the internet changed all of that. Job boards changed everything, and now there is no print job advertised. But if I'd stayed in that, then you'd be out of work. No one wants to talk about any of that these days. It doesn't even exist. So you have to move. You have to move, or you get left behind, and someone else will replace you that can use that.
The world is brutal right now in that sense. But it's true. You're completely right. I think you need to move on, or you will be moved on, unfortunately. God. Move on, or you'll be moved on.
But anyway, 99% of all us are going to be jobless in 10 years' time anyway, right? So, according to that
they're talking about like universal credit, and how we'll be living off one big
I'm not sure about that sort of theory. That sounds very like dystopian sort of movie, like where we're all controlled. Like, I'm not sure about that.
Like the new series of Alien. I
haven't seen that. Is it good?
It is good, and it's kind of gives you a theory of what the world might look like in a few years' time.
So we're doing talent, we're doing RevOps, we're doing AI, and we're now even doing box set recommendations. There's something for everyone in this podcast, isn't there?
Love that. But can I ask you a question? Like, what is your take?
No one asked me a question. I'm not prepared for a question. Go on,
What's your take on AI as a business leader?
Well, kind of almost what we've been talking about. I think specifically for recruitment, I feel like we're not really happy yet to be interacting with AI. Well, it's not just really recruitment, but chatbots. We don't really want to talk to a chatbot. We're waiting till the little chatbot says, "I'm going to transfer you to an advisor," and then hopefully that advisor is a real person. And there's lots of talk about AI interviewing candidates, and you're talking to an AI as a candidate to find details about the job. I think typically we're still quite uncomfortable with doing that. So I think the customer facing element of AI we're not comfortable with yet. Maybe that will change, but behind the scenes, the engine room, where you're asking AI to sort data, look through data, read data. We've done it a lot with Wave Tracker in terms of reading, scanning CVs, and passing information. That's really useful. So at the minute, I see it very much as a really strong back office operation. Front ways, from a front of house thing, I'm not so sure. Have you ever had a AI cold caller call you yet?
I had.
I've had one too.
It's weird. It's weird.
Isn't it?
I also, as you were talking, I was thinking about Salesforce. Obviously, they got rid of 45% of their people recently. A majority of them like customer care. So you're just like, So I'm not sure how customer centric it is. It's coming back to your question around the motives of using AI, and obviously haven't looked into Salesforce accounts. I don't know what the situation is and whatnot, but I don't know. Just the business person in me says, "Yeah, go for that. Saving lots of money."
Yeah.
The customer centric person in me, and just genuinely a customer, says, "Not sure about that. I'm not sure that's what." I don't know if that actually will damage their brand long term. Coming back to that conversation as well.
Yeah.
It's
the delivery, isn't it? When you talk about
delivery.
the brand being the promise and the customer experience being the delivery of that. If the end result is better, then that's good.
Yeah.
But at the minute, probably it's not going to be as good.
It's a good one, isn't it? Because it's like, well, I suppose there's a price point in there as well. Salesforce is not a cheap product, so you're like, why do I pay premium if there's no people behind resolving my issues?
But do we care about that? So
good question.
Do we care because we want our problem solved? So
do we care in which way?
So we want our problem solved as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. And just thinking as an example for a moment, if you ever try and ring the bank, or let's say you're ringing someone and you're on hold for ages, and you finally get through to someone, and they say, "Sorry for holding. How can I help?" And you then say, "Well, I want to change my bank account," or whatever it is. And they say, "Great, we're going to run you through some security questions." And then you go through this loop of security questions, and then you tell them what you want.
And then they're like, "Oh, actually, I need to another department." And then you go through the same cycle.
You go through the whole thing, but each time you're talking to a person, right? So you're contributing to talking to people. Now, if you had the facility using AI, I don't know how they do it, whatever it is, but you can talk to that AI and it gives you the answer instantly. You're not holding for 45 minutes. Change your bank account or change your details, and you're done within 5 minutes. Which one, if you asked 100 people, would they experience they want? Because I bet they would go for the AI.
But I'm going to sound like a broken record, but for me it comes back to processes, and the processes that need to be created with customers in mind. In fact, I think any decision in any business should be created with customer in mind. If they're not, why we're doing it.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, in that particular example, what is the process of someone taking a call to someone resolving someone's issue,
Exactly. Yeah.
and what are the touch points in between, and how can we make that efficient? And then you go, oh, okay, well, now I have a process defined, how I can add a layer to make it, more effective, cheaper, whatever it is. And that's how you implement AI within an organization. You go from fundamentals first, so that the delivery of it gives customer a great experience.
Yeah.
So they don't go at the end, why have I called here again?
Yeah. And then you get asked to do a survey at the end.
How did you rate the experience? -10.
How do I put minus on the keypad? But you're right, because actually that two examples that I gave, the reason that the first version is so long and tedious is because the process of that and the skill. What's the word? How would you describe it? The training that you've given that one person you talk to isn't sufficient that they can do the things that you want. So you then have to go through to another department, which invariably means transferring a phone call from here over to maybe a different part of the country, and then you have to start that again. So because how frustrating is it when you give your security details and then you're through security and then you have to do it again. That's nothing to do with the fact that human beings taken that. It's to do with the process in where that information goes.
Exactly. But also customer expectations. 15 years ago, that was fine. You wouldn't think twice about the fact that you've been asked you probably were happy that you've been asked security questions.
Yeah.
Where now you're like, excuse me, that's taking 30 seconds longer than I expected.
Yeah.
I got stuff to do. I have reels to scroll through.
Yeah.
So you your expectation of that speed has changed as well.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we suddenly get very used to a new way of working. As technology evolves, we are our expectations just go.
And we as businesses need to adapt to that.
So we're back to looking at AI to look at that. Just another kind of thinking about that AI call. I mean, I had one a little while back, and I actually thought it was quite interesting, because my attitude kind of changed a little bit, where I enjoyed the fact that I wasn't being sold to down my throat. So I was like asking.
You were lucky, I was.
what were the good things? What were the bad things about it? Because I'm thinking, is this AI going to lie to me? Is it going to tell me that they're the best, whatever they were doing on the market, or is it going to give me the truth? So I asked, what other things could I consider and stuff? And they kind of managed it relatively well. But then as a business owner, could you be thinking, well, rather than hiring 10 salespeople, I could have 100,000 calls going out in a minute doing this, but the quality is currently on the floor. I suppose you're going to come back and say that's because the processes is
I think it's also about what is important to you as a business and business owner, and again, what kind of brand you want to portray, and what image you want to have. There's this concept of every company is sort of in that triangle between operational efficiency, product excellence, and customer care / centricity. And depending on where you are in that triangle, obviously the sweet spot is somewhere in the middle. But say Amazon is very on that kind of operational efficiency / customer care sort of side, where Apple is on that product excellence side. Yeah. So depending on where you want your brand to be positioned, that is where you make your decision making will depend on that as well.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So if the most important thing to you is operational excellence, and actually you're okay with giving a mediocre customer experience, maybe that is a way forward for you. I mean, I'm never a fan of that, because I do think that, you know, these days there needs to be a certain level of customer customer experience and just personalization as such. And in fact, I think it will become more important with the whole AI invasion.
Invasion.
There's a lot of drama in here today.
Yeah, I love it. So we are pretty much out of time. We're talking about bar. Like we started this by saying we're going to set the bar really high. Should we have a little where do you think we set that bar, you know, for your first podcast? You know, I mean, we're humans, we're not AI, haven't been AI generated. You can get those
disclaimer
as well, can't you?
Okay.
You know, we are real. So where have we set ourselves on this? Where do you think we've set ourselves on this podcast?
I really enjoyed the conversation, so I really liked it. But I suppose we will let the viewers decide on where we're like. It's like coming back to we're great. Why are you great? We're just great.
Yeah. The proof of the pudding is in the viewing. So if you're watching this or listening to this, then just give us a like or whatever. That's what
subscribe, likes, comments, shares, all of that beautiful stuff.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you for being part of the Talent Matters podcast. Hopefully it wasn't too bad for your first one, and sets lovely. The bar ready to go on to bigger and better things.
No, thank you so much. Really appreciate it, and I enjoyed the conversation. Hopefully you do as well. And hopefully, you know, viewers can take something from it as well.
Tell us what you think,
Yeah, exactly.
Good, bad or indifferent. So.
Yes.
Super, thank you.